no matter what you're going through in life, maybe you understand it, maybe you don't. Maybe God revealed it to you, maybe he didn't. But the thing is that you got to continue to learn more, do more, and become more. That's like the 3 pillars that my wife and I live on. You have to be able to learn more, do more, and become more. That's why God created us.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Journey podcast. We're so glad you're able to join us today. We have a special guest that I'm so excited to just talk with. His name's Jose Flores. But if this is your first time listening, or you've been listening in the last couple of weeks, go ahead and share this episode with your friend or a family member. I'm telling you, it's going to bless you and it's going to be a good one. Jose, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me, brother.
Man, I'm so excited, and it's been awesome to see and be behind the scenes of your life. For most of you who don't know, me and his sons, when I first moved to the United States, his sons were my first friends, and we've been close ever since. Over a decade now, me and your sons have been friends, and that means over a decade we have been family. So I'm just glad to just have you here and share your story with people, because most people might not know what has happened in your life. You go around the world and, you influence people, and you really, share your story around the world and help people, with their mental state and wherever they're at, and you meet them where they're at in their journey with life.
Yeah.
And it's just awesome to see how you're impacting the world. And I really believe that some people today that are listening to this are going to be impacted. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about, from the beginning, your journey.
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, thank you for, having me on your show and letting me hang out with you and your audience. I appreciate the opportunity, man. And it's been also, I'm just honored and proud of you as well, just seeing you grow up with the boys and with the family, you know what I mean? And you get to see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that we go through. But for those of you who may not know, obviously you can see I'm in a wheelchair. Some of you may know, some of you may not know, but I was born with a neuromuscular condition called spinal muscular atrophy. And basically what that does is the older I get, the weaker my muscles get.
Mm-hmm.
And that's due to a deficiency in one of the genes that when I was born, I was lacking this particular gene that produces the protein that we all need to stay strong and get stronger as we get older. So I remember when I was 3 years old, my mom noticed that I had a little limp when I walked, and everybody was like, "Oh, he looks so cute. He walks like a little tough guy." And my mom noticed that it wasn't going away, so she took me to the doctor. That prompted her to get me checked, and they decided to do a muscle biopsy on me. And that's when they determined that I had spinal muscular atrophy, SMA for short. And they told my parents that I'd be in a wheelchair by the age of 15, and that I probably wouldn't live past the age of 19 due to this condition. And it's a crazy thing because there's 4 types of what I have. The first 2 types are the more severe ones, and then the last 2 types are the less severe ones. So I have type 3, which 3 and 4 are non-life threatening, so I can live a normal life, a normal lifespan. The first 2, though, however, they're more severe, so they don't, like, if you have type 1 or 2, that the babies will probably die within the first year, some a little longer, maybe like in their adolescent, but they wouldn't probably live past like 10, 11 years old. Yeah. And, but the good news is that, this year I celebrated my 46th birthday.
Let's go.
Yeah, man. So I'm excited about that. And then on top of that, in 2020, they developed this treatment, a gene therapy for my condition. And so I started that last year in 2022. And so what this treatment does is there's 2 types of genes that we have that produce the protein that we need to be strong in life. And so I was born without the main copy of it. The second copy, I have 3 copies of it, but it's not producing enough protein. That's why I can still move. I still have some movement, some mobility, but it's not strong. It's weakened because it's not producing enough. So what this drug does is it forces those backup copies that I have to produce more protein. So not enough for me to be able to stand and walk again yet, but enough for the disease to stop progressing. So I'm like, hey, I'll take that all day, right? That's a win for me. So as long as I don't get any worse, I'll take that. So yeah, it wasn't until I got to high school that I really started to feel, this condition started to kick in, and it started to become difficult for me to do just basic things that, many of us take for granted, like going from a sitting to a standing position, bending over to put my pants on or tie my shoes, going up the stairs, picking my arms up to put my shirt on, just little things like that were starting to become more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And my leg used to start giving out at me at random moments, and I would fall like in front of everybody, like at the movie theater or the mall or the park or wherever, bro, at school. I fell a couple times, so embarrassing, bro. And so I was always like, man, why me, right? Like, I was like, there was a time where, where I actually felt like I hated God because I felt like he did this to me. Like I wasn't like I had an accident or wrong place, wrong time type of situation. It was like I was born like this. And I felt like if he made me in his perfect image, what was perfect about this?
Wow.
And so, it was difficult, trying to navigate through this, because going from being independent to now your body giving up on you and you start feeling weaker, it was tough because I felt like the weakest link my whole life. Like growing up, I was always the last kid to be picked to play kickball or softball or whatever the case was, or, whatever the game was. I was always the last one to be picked if it was a physical sport. And I just felt like the weakest link. Like I felt like people pitied me and felt sorry for me and those type of things. But, that's why I'm the mindset disruptor now, right? Because I had to be able to disrupt my own mindset, man. And now I'm able to disrupt other people's mindsets through the process, because I learned that, we're not going to know everything in life. God sometimes allows things to happen in our lives for many reasons, right? Sometimes we know what the reason is. Sometimes we don't know. And this just happens to be one of those, I don't know why, right? Yeah. But I feel like I know why now, right? I feel like God can use us, like we spoke about earlier, right where we are, with what we have. Yeah. And we don't have to have much. We just have to have a heart that's yielded to him and that's surrendered to him. And that's all he needs to make you into a mighty person. And so, yeah, man. So I'm grateful, man, because I get to, impact the lives of people worldwide now and do my thing. So
that's amazing. And so how would you say, like, for in a situation that you don't get the understanding of why things happen, and there's a lot of things, there's so many things that happen in life that we can't control, that we ask God, why did this happen to us? So what are like practical ways for people to understand, okay, this is how you get the mindset to overcome this type of situation, a situation where you can't control?
Yeah. That's a good question, because I think everybody struggles with that, right? And so when you understand that you have a purpose, right? Like we hear that all the time in the church realm, like, you were born on purpose and for purpose, yeah, right? And with the purpose. And so when you understand that, you'd be surprised, man. I talk to large audiences a lot of times, and I'll ask people to raise their hand. Like, I'm like, hey, raise your hand if you know what you want to do in life. And not too many people raise their hands. Some do, some are like thinking about it. And so it's weird, because I'll ask people like, hey, how many of you have dreams in the room? People will raise their hand. How many of you are chasing your dreams? People, some hands will go down. And then I'm like, how many of you are living your dreams? And like almost like you only have like a
10%.
Oh yeah, like 10% of the crowd, or maybe less, is with their hands still raised. Wow. And that's because people don't know what their purpose is. People don't know why they were created. Like, why am I here? Why'd you make me like this, Lord? Yeah. Like, if I can't even like live a normal, quote unquote, normal life, which now I'll disrupt your mind in a minute about that. But when I was younger, all I wanted to do was be normal. Right, I wanted everybody to treat me the same. I didn't want nobody to treat me different, and I wanted to be normal. I was always using this word like normal. And then after growing up, right now I understand that I don't want to be normal. Yeah. Right, because the normal means I'm like everybody else. The normal means I'm average. The normal means that I'm just like mediocre and I go with the flow. That's what normal is. So I don't want to be normal anymore. I want to like go against the grain. I want to like break statistics and stereotypes and barriers and boundaries, and I'm doing that, man. But, when you have somebody who struggles with who they are and what their purpose is, I would just say that you need to dig deep inside and start asking yourself some serious questions. Like, it's not that difficult, bro. Like, God didn't create us to live in a world that's made to be
like
difficult.
A treasure hunt where you have to try to figure out like
you got to find these things, right? I mean, we do have to find, we have to find and explore, but it's not like like you said, like a treasure hunt,
Yeah.
not like a scavenger hunt. Like you got to get these clues. It's like God gave you gifts,
Yeah.
and your purpose is found in those gifts. That's what it is. Like when I was younger, I always used to get in trouble for talking all the time in school. Talking, getting. Oh, he talks too much. He jokes around too much. He clowns around too much.
And look where you are now.
All these years later, now I'm getting paid to talk, right? And so it's funny. God has a funny way of working things out, right? And so I was trying to tell my teachers back in the day, like, yo, I'm just functioning in my gift, man. This is my calling. but on a serious note, like a lot of times our purpose is found in our gifts.
Yeah.
Like, what are you good at doing?
Yeah.
What do you love doing? What would you do for free that you didn't have to be paid to do? Like, what do you do that impacts other people's lives? Like, do you have a spirit of inspiration or motivation or encouragement? Are people always looking to you for like advice or counsel? Like those type of things. Like, are you good at drawing or playing music? Like things that come naturally to you that you don't have to go to school to learn how to do.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the gifts that I'm talking about. And a lot of times your purpose is found in those things.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what we do is we're like, hey, you know what? I love to play music, but it's just a hobby. But God really wants you to use that to make massive impact and to bring him glory and to also make an income. God gave us gifts that not only so that we can not only make an impact, but we can make an income as well.
Yeah.
Right. And provide for ourselves and our families. And so when you learn how to do that and you understand those concepts and you start to, expand your mind and your thinking and think about these things, your life starts to change. So when I was younger, I never thought I would be able to do anything great, Drew. Real talk. I never thought I'd be able to do anything great. I never thought I'd be able to do anything of significance. I felt like nobody would even respect me as a man because I wasn't complete, or so I felt when I was younger. But again, as I grew older, started getting closer to the Lord and building my relationship, and one of the questions I get asked all the time is like, well, do you talk about God in your presentations and when you go to corporate America or when you go to schools, do you talk about God?
Yeah.
And I don't really have to talk about God because the Word of God says that they shall know you by your fruit.
Yeah.
Right. So what I do is I just let the light of the Lord shine in me and through me. And
you're going to places too that they're not Christian events.
Exactly.
So it's not like you're going to tell your story,
like they didn't understand
and speak on how they can, have a better mindset towards their situations. Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not only telling my story, right? Because I mean, the story, we all have a story, but I've learned how to weave my story into leadership principles, like diversity, equity, and inclusion.
That's good.
Principles and teamwork principles, right? I know we were talking one time about how you had a little behind the scenes glimpse of like what happens in our family.
Yeah.
Because you used to stay over our house all the time and you used to see like our kids when they would be playing video games and I had to call them out like, hey, come help me real quick. I need to go in the shower or I'd have to use the bathroom and they'd be in the middle of the game upset like, oh my gosh.
Middle of the game and they have to leave.
You know what I mean? And I know it was frustrating, but at the end of the day, I felt like I was trying to show my kids that we had to work as a team to be successful, right? And I don't think they got it when they were little. I think that when they were younger, they kind of like maybe resented a little bit having to like miss out on those games or maybe certain time frames. But, my hope and prayer desire is that as they get older, that they start to realize that, they don't, as a kid, you don't understand these things, right? But as they get older, they become men that they start to understand, like, you know what? My dad didn't ask for this.
Yeah.
He didn't have a choice in this. We didn't have a choice in it, like as them, like them saying to themselves, like, I didn't have a choice. Like they didn't have a choice to be my kids, like born into my family. Like we don't get to pick what family we're born in. Yeah. Unfortunately, right? But we do get to pick that we get to be a part of the family of God, right?
Yeah.
And so on a larger scale, when you think about that, I hope that my kids grow up to understand that, my dad did the best he could with what he had. And I feel like I gave my kids a privileged life, so to speak, right? Like they didn't have everything, right? We weren't millionaires, but they had a way better life than I had when I was growing up. Right? They had a lot of fun, right?
We had fun,
but that was my thing, man. Like growing up and becoming a man and getting married and building a family.
Yeah,
I was always like, you know what? I got to be able to provide for my family because I know it's going to be a hard life that we all have to live together, but I want to make it fun at the same time. And so we went on family vacations every year, multiple times, sometimes a year, because I was always about, yo, bro, like a lot of times people look at me like thinking that I'm on like government assistance, disability checks. And bro, I've always made more money than my wife. Always. until recently where I started like going onto this entrepreneurial journey because, you know, when you become an entrepreneur, you know, you don't get a paycheck for like the first 5 years.
Yeah.
All that money's going right back into the business, you know, and you're using it for like traveling or getting equipment or, you know, building softwares or purchasing software, things like that. So it's just in the recent, like recently where I started to be able to pay myself a little something, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just grateful that I had a wife that's able to support me in that, right? Because I understand like in 2018, the job that I was working for 7 years, they wound up laying me off. And it was tough because I was like one of those, I'm a worker, bro. Like I grind, like I tell people like, don't let the wheelchair fool you.
Yeah.
Like I outwork most able-bodied people, men and women, whoever. I'm like, you come at me. I'll show you what I'm about. You know what I mean? But the thing is that I always felt like I had to prove myself. That comes from me always feeling like I had to prove myself. One, because I wanted to show people that this wheelchair doesn't define me.
Yeah.
Like I could keep up with you.
Yeah.
Right? In certain aspects. But then it went from feeling like I had to prove myself to people to now I just want to prove myself to people because I want to raise a higher awareness, level of awareness and show people like just because I have a disability doesn't mean that this disability has me. Right? And so I tell people like just because I have SMA doesn't mean SMA has me. And so I always made it a mission of life to grind harder than the person next to me. And that's what I do, bro. Like I could go down a list of things that I'm involved with, that I'm doing. I'm on several boards of different, I'm on the board of the city that I live in, on the diversity. I'm the chairman, no pun intended, right? The chairman of the DEI board of the city that I live in. I'm on the board of one of the largest SMA communities in the world. They raise millions of dollars for treatment and help the community. I'm on the adult advisory board from them. I'm on a bunch of different boards. I do a lot of different things. I wear a lot of different hats. I'm a lay minister at the church.
Yes, you are.
You know what I mean? My wife and I are life group directors. So we have our hands in a lot of things. Yeah. And people are always like, where do you get the strength to do all of this? And I'm like, it's only by the grace of God.
Amen.
And the funny thing is like, you know, you see somebody will see me and say something like, where do you get the strength from? To somebody whose body is weak.
Wow.
So when you start to think about these things, right? Like, so somebody's asking a guy in a wheelchair whose body is weak, where do you get the strength to do all of these things? Yeah. Because just thinking about it, I'm getting tired already. And I'm able-bodied, right? And so I tell people, it's like, yo, it's the grace of God because I can't do it in my own strength. Okay. I can't do all of these things in my own strength. It's through the grace of God who gives me, my wife, and my children the ability, the strength, the perseverance, and the stamina to live this difficult life that we have to live. You know, and sometimes I get emotional about it. And it's not like woe was me tears. It's like tears of joy because I know where I came from, bro. And that's the thing about it. Like, people know the wheelchair version of Jose. They don't know the being able to walk version of Jose in the streets in the Bronx, New York. They don't know that guy. And I never really share that because I'm not proud of that. You know, I share it when I have to. If I'm talking to young people, I'll share it sometimes. Or if I feel God leading me to share it, I'll share it. But I've done a lot of things, bro, that are like unspoken things in certain groups that people be like, no, he would never do something like that. And it was like, because I was struggling, man. I was trying to figure this thing out. And I was upset with God. I was rebelling. I was angry. I was furious, bro. My anger, my temperament, bro, was beyond this world, bro. And God had to work with me in that. He had to deal with me in that. He had to bring me through those things and develop me and like build my character up and show me like there's a better way. Like, you don't have to wake up upset and angry all the time. And I didn't understand these things, right? Like when I was your age, I didn't understand these things, but it's a process. So I want to tell your audience that's listening or watching that no matter what you're going through in life, maybe you understand it, maybe you don't. Maybe God revealed it to you, maybe he didn't. But the thing is that you got to continue to learn more, do more, and become more. That's like the 3 pillars that my wife and I live on. You have to be able to learn more, do more, and become more. That's why God created us, right? If we don't do and like use the gifts that God gave us to bring him glory, to uplift other people, then what really is our purpose? Yeah. Right? Because the world will say, be selfish. Get all this money, become successful, gain all these material things, and it's all for you. And then what? When you have all the money and you have all the toys and you have all the houses and you travel the world, then what?
Yeah.
Like, where's the peace? Where's the joy? Where's the happiness? And so that's what I've been able to learn over the years, man. And that's what I teach my clients. That's what I teach when I'm coaching my clients and speaking at these different corporations. These are the principles I'm teaching them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we can wake up, we can go to a 9 to 5. I don't knock a 9 to 5, right? Because I worked a 9 to 5. And I tell my kids, like, yo, 9 to 5s are great. That's what gave you a great lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's what paid for us to travel and bought us our house and bought us our cars and all these things. 9 to 5 provided that. But I made a decision when I got laid off in 2018 that I wasn't going to put my livelihood in the hands of somebody else ever again. I was going to be able to use the gifts that God gave me and create my own economy. And it's been tough, man. It's been ups and downs. It's been hills and valleys. It's been like,
God keeps opening doors.
I'm telling you, bro. And that's the thing. Like when I tell my wife, like my wife, sometimes she gets a little anxious about these things, right? And we notice as Christians, like God says, be anxious for nothing, but we're human too.
Yeah.
So we have to navigate these things. But I tell my wife when we're going through a rough patch, I'm like, babe, we have two options. Literally, I tell people, if you're listening, I want your audience to listen to this and grasp this, bro, because there's only two options, bro. There's not three, there's not four. Yeah. There's two options in life. You can either wake up with an attitude that says, the heck with the world, I'm going to be bitter, miserable, depressed, and I'm going to just go through the motions of life. Or you can say, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to choose to be happy, I'm going to decide to let the joy of the Lord be my strength, right? It's a choice, bro. It's a choice and a decision. There's only two, bro. You're going to wake up and be positive, or you're going to wake up and be negative. Yeah. There is no in between. And so I choose every day to do to be positive, man. Yeah. Because it's so much more enjoyable being positive than being negative, right? Because if I was negative, I'd probably be on drugs, alcohol, and depressed, like dealing with, I don't want to deal with those things. I'd rather deal with the wheelchair and the struggles that come with that and put a smile on my face and be happy.
Yeah. And when you're positive too, is like you are able to listen to God and feel his presence. Absolutely. When you're walking in those situations. Absolutely. Because the moment you decide to give up, the moment you decide to quit, is the moment where you allow the enemy to have a foothold.
Absolutely.
And so the moment he gets a foothold is the moment where it's like, oh my gosh, it feels like everything's going crazy. Everything is just going terrible.
And he's winning.
And it makes you feel like he's winning.
Exactly.
The truth is that you got to just keep walking in positivity and walking with God and walking in peace and joy.
Yeah.
So good.
And when you think about it, bro, all of these people that are becoming, that want to become successful, right, and have all this money and have all of these things, at the root of it, bro, they want happiness.
Yeah. And they'll come back even like years down the road. Yeah. They would have achieved it. Yeah. And they come back and say, oh my goodness, it was one of the worst times of my life. Yep. Like you hear that all the time, where they come back 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, and they say, I achieved it. I got all the money. I got all the fame. I got all the success. People were watching me and all this type of stuff. But I was in a bad place.
And all of it means nothing.
Yep. And that's why I think that's one of the biggest things is understanding God's peace in the midst of your struggle.
Yep.
In the midst.
And that's what I have, bro. That's what sets me apart. That's what makes me different. That's what makes me unique. That's what makes me abnormal. That when I'm faced with a difficulty like this, or any other difficulty at that, now that I'm a grown man and I understand these things, when I'm faced with a difficulty, I'm like, God, this is your fight.
Yeah.
I don't need to put the pressure of that on me anymore. Yeah. I don't need to carry those burdens, right? Yeah. The word of God says that, my yoke is easy and my burdens are light. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, God, you got to take this. I'm not carrying this. Yeah. You got to take this. Like I feel like if God gives you the vision, he's going to give you the provision, right? Every time. And let me tell you something, bro. This is the thing that amazes me about God, is that he only needs to show up one time in my life to show me, right? Because a lot of times we're like, God, I need a sign. I need you to show me. I need you to do something. And when he does, that's all it takes, bro. Because now, if he did it once before,
he'll do it again.
But it's when he wants, not when we want. That's the part we struggle with, right? And so it's like, God, I need you to show up now, bro. Like, where you at? You did it before, but I need you now. Like, I'm struggling like I am, like I was before, and you showed up. I'm struggling now. Where are you? And sometimes it'll be some periods of time where he won't show up, or it may look like he's not showing up, because God is always there.
Yeah.
Right? But sometimes we have to be able to grasp take a grasp of that thought and say, you know what? We have to capture every thought, right? We have to capture our thoughts and say, God, you know what? I don't I may not necessarily see you or feel you, but I know you're here. That's just that right there. Just think about that. I may not feel you or see you, but I know you're here. That's powerful, bro.
And that's what makes you keep fighting.
And that's what keeps me going, bro, every single morning. I used to wake up back in the day, look at this wheelchair and be like, dang, man, I got to get into that thing again. Hate that thing, bro. And now I look at it like as a piece of equipment that God allows somebody to create for somebody like me to be able to get out into the world.
Yeah.
Bro, I went on a cruise one time with my kids and my family, and I remember seeing this little old lady. I'm sorry, this little young girl, she came up to me and she was speaking in Spanish and she was asking me like, oh, she was like, wow, that wheelchair is amazing. She was like, it must be expensive, huh? I was like, yeah, it is pretty expensive. Like, she was like, how much is it? So I told her, she was like, oh my gosh, I'll never be able to get one of those for my grandma. And she was like, my grandma needs a wheelchair so bad. And I was like, yeah, man. And I felt bad because I had another wheelchair back home.
Oh.
And she was like, that's my grandmother right there. And when I looked, her grandmother was sitting on the floor dragging herself, bro. So when you put these type of things into perspective, bro, like I live in a country where this is available to me.
Yeah.
Like it's that I'm supposed to have this. Like they provide this for me. But there's other countries when I travel, and that's why I like wanted to bring my kids and expose them to these different type of situations to know like, yo, we have a good life. Like I could be on the floor, then you have to drag me. Like this old lady was doing, like the granddaughter would have to pick her up and kind of drag her when the grandmother couldn't move, like literally on the floor dragging herself, bro. So when you think about these things, man, it's like, man, God, I'm just so grateful, man. I'm just so grateful for what you've done in my life. Like even in the middle of the storm, I'm still in the storm, bro. Every day I wake up and got to get to this, it's a struggle. It's a fight, not only in the physical realm, but in the spiritual realm. I got to continue to believe that God is good. I got to continue to say that God is who he is. And I got to continue to believe and trust that his word is his word.
Let's go.
You know what I'm saying? So when he says that you are stripes, you're healed by my stripes you are healed, I got to believe that. And so I was thinking, like, God woke me up the other night in the middle of the night, and I was like thinking about these different things. That's one of the things, like, so my mind is always all over the place thinking about different things. But I was like, do you believe that there's a difference between fact and the truth?
Wow.
Right? Do you believe the difference that there's a difference?
Woke up in the middle of the night and thought that.
I was thinking about that. I'm like, is there a difference between fact and truth? Now you might ask some people and they might be like, well, no, if it's a fact, then that fact is true.
Yeah.
Right? But that's, when you think about that, that's in the physical realm, right? But and then God gave me this word and it was so powerful, man. And I was like, the fact is, I'm in a wheelchair, right? But the truth is, by his stripes, I am healed.
Let's go.
Right? So when you think about that, it's like, what the heck? Like, I need to hear that again because I didn't understand that. So the fact is I'm in a wheelchair, but the truth is, by his stripes, I'm healed. So when you talk to somebody who doesn't understand these things, they're like, bro, you crazy.
Yeah.
But when you talk to somebody who understands these things, it's like,
faith.
You know, somebody asked me, this is another thing, right? Somebody asked me the other day, because I've been taking this treatment and I've also been coupling it with physical therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been doing stretching my body. My kids used to help me stretch all the time. My wife helped me stretch, but now I go to physical therapy. They help me stretch intensively. And now, just last year, I was able to stand up for the first time in 23 years in a standing frame. And so with the treatment, I'm always promoting on my social media the treatment and me going to physical therapy, and people are like, somebody messaged me the other day, was like, you walking yet? And I was like, by faith, not by sight. Yeah. So I am walking, you just don't see it yet. Right? And so it's like one of those things that you think about.
What was their response?
Right? They were just like, amen, amen. Mad like heart emojis after that. But it's like, those are the type of comebacks that I come back when people that they think like that, like, oh, are you walking yet? Or when are you gonna walk? And I'm like, bro, I've been walking by faith, not by sight for so many years, bro. And even till today, I'm walking by faith, not by sight. Why? Because I can't walk physically yet. But I see myself, Andrew, bro. So many people come up to me sometimes like, yo, I had a dream you were walking.
Wow.
My mom just told me this week that my dad had a dream I was walking. So many people come up to me with that vision, right? And so that pushes me too. Because I'm like, even though I don't see it yet physically, God is showing other people that it's possible, that it can happen. And so that encourages me, because I'm like, and bro, it's most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time that people tell me that, it's always at a time where I feel down and out, right? Because I'm the motivator. I'm the mindset disruptor. I'm the guy who inspires. Like, I'm always on 100. And, but I tell people, like, I'm human too.
There's moments.
Like, I have my moments, I have my days, bro, where I just want to be in bed and feel down and out, you know? But I've also learned that I can't let that become a normal, a consistent, because that's when we talked about earlier, the enemy gets a foothold and then he has a field day with you. So it's all right. I want to also let your audience know this, that it's all right to have your moments. It's all right to have your days, but understand that that's all it could be. It can't be more than that, because what happens is those days turn into weeks, those weeks turn into months and years. And next thing you know, you've been dealing with depression for 5, 10, 15 years.
And I think the basis of this conversation is whatever you're going through, keep fighting.
That's it.
Because God's with you. God's right beside you, even when you don't feel it. You know, there's moments where you're in that wilderness season where you feel like God's thousands of miles away and he is not even speaking to you. You can't feel his tangible presence, but God is right there with you in the midst of those moments. And I think that's the basis of this conversation, is just keep fighting.
Yeah, man. And that's why I wrote my book, and I titled it, Don't Let Your Struggle Become Your Standard. How to be indispensable even when the odds are stacked against you. So there you have it, man. You know what I mean? Stay strong, push in, keep fighting. You know, and I have my podcast too. It's called I Won't Stop Until I Win.
Okay.
Right?
Awesome.
So that's what I always want to leave the audience with. It's like, don't stop until you win.
Keep learning.
Keep growing, keep becoming, and keep on winning. And count those small wins, man. Sometimes we neglect the small ones, but it's those added up small wins that turn into the big wins over time, man. And I've been able to experience the goodness of God, man. You know, even though I have to live like this and I have to endure and persevere, it's funny because I laugh at people when they tell me about how their knee is hurting or their back is hurting or their ankle is hurting, or even sometimes people will see me out in the street and they'd be like, oh man, I wish I had one of those so I could sit down. I'm tired right now. And I'm like, well, I wish I could stand up and say I was tired right now. You know what I mean? So it's just like the way you think about things, like perspective. It's perspective, man. It's all perspective. And I tell people, like, you know, be careful what you ask for, man, because
that's good.
This wheelchair life ain't no joke, man. So I wouldn't say, you know, I wish I had one of those things, because it's not fun. It's not fun at all, bro.
Yeah.
But I'm able to make it fun, you know? And that's the good thing about it. God gave me a sense of humor. He gave me a good personality, and he gave me that no quit mentality and mindset. So
it's so cool to see God use you in incredible ways around the world to inspire people. Jose, thank you so much for just being a part of this conversation and you know, encouraging the audience and those who are listening to keep fighting, to keep moving forward, and to keep going on, because God's right next to you and God's right there beside you. And so thank you so much for being here.
Yo, and I want to just say this one last thing, man. If you're watching and you're listening, follow me on my social media. At Jose Inspires. Check out my website, joseinspires.com, to get the book. And my wife and I just wrote a marriage book together.
Oh, really?
Curriculum.
Oh.
Yeah, and a journal. And we're going to be launching that coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. But I also wanted to do this for your audience. If you're watching or you're listening to this, I want to give you a free gift, no strings attached. Just go to freegift.joseinspires.com. Again, that's freegift.joseinspires.com. And it's just a little motivational download that you can download on your device or your phone on this talk that I gave on the power of showing up.
Let's go.
So when you show up for life, man, powerful things happen. But if you don't show up for life, then nothing will ever happen.
Let's go. Well, okay, well, we love free stuff, so make sure that you go and check that out. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining the Journey Podcast this week. It was a great conversation, and we'll see you next week.